Welcome to Franklin Community High School for our Inside Franklin Athletics podcast, also known as Yet to Be Named, because we're trying to figure out a name. I am Brian Powers. My co-host, Chaz Hill, is not here yet. We do not know where he is. He clicked yes on the accept invite and is not here. But we have with us the man of the hour, Mr. Zach DeWitt, head coach of the Franklin Community High School renowned swim team. How are you this morning? This afternoon?
This afternoon, I'm pretty cold. It's a little cold in this building, but not too bad.
No, not bad at all.
How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you. But it's not about me. It's about you. So, first things first. This weekend, you have the girls' state swimming championships. Who's in? Who's going? How are they looking?
Okay.
Gonna win team wise.
Sounds weird. I've got to break this down by lineup in my head, but the medley relay, it's backstroke is Allie Lacey, Cabria Chapman. We've yet to decide on our flyer. We'll have a swim off for that spot today.
Oh, you couldn't break that here?
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure it out today at practice, and then Gracie Payne normally anchors that thing. And 200 free, we've got Sarah Hoffman, 200 IM. We've got Allie Lacey, 50 free. We've got three girls, two seniors, it's Bella Ratzlaff and Lucy Ho, and then Gracie Payne. That's the first time we've ever put three girls in one event. We got 100 freestyle, which is Gracie Payne. We've got one girl on the 500. That's Sarah Hoffman. 200 free relay. Should be three seniors and a junior. Gracie Payne, Lucy Ho, Bella Ratzlaff, and Sarah Hoffman. We've got a backstroker, freshman Allie Lacey, and then breaststroker we got two girls, Bella Ratzlaff and then Cabria Chapman. And then 400 freestyle relay will be, Allie Lacey, Bella Ratzlaff, Lucy Ho, and Allie Lacey. So I'm not sure how many girls that is. That's all the events represented.
It's impressive that you knew that. Like I mean, you are the head coach, so you should know that. But just to rattle that off, that's pretty good.
Similarly, I'd like to think if you ask a football coach what's this, starting lineup, I'm pretty sure that they can give you.
Chaz has no idea.
Mr. DeWitt, Chaz Hill.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you too. We probably crossed paths at some point, but I don't think we've ever been formally introduced to each other.
Wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Break it, just two guys meet.
Well, the way they have this building segmented.
This is how the podcast can do it. Bring people together.
This podcast brings people together. I like
exactly.
it. So.
They like to segment us. I keep to my own kind, which is foreign language folk.
All right. So one thing that I would like to talk to you about. It's awesome that you are going this weekend, and you've got everyone coming there, and obviously the past couple of years have just been phenomenal for you as a coach, as a program, boys and girls, and you've got a great group, not only seniors but underclassmen. You're well mixed. How did you do that? Like how do you get the program from where it was, which has always been pretty solid, to where it is now, which is, top 3 in the state consistently? So where did you start? How did this all happen?
That's an incredibly loaded question.
That's why we've got 45 minutes.
In 2012, I was a middle school head coach.
Did you swim growing up?
Yep. Okay. I'm from Martinsville, Indiana. I went to IU. Wasn't that great of a swimmer. I sometimes think that aids me because I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the sport, so I had no preconceptions on how to do this or how to do that. But in terms of how I ended up here, 2012, I had a pretty close relationship with the guy at the time, Brett Finley. He was a good friend of mine. He called me, said he was going to be vacating. He suggested that I took this. I'm not really sure why they took the time to even interview me, quite frankly, because like I said, I was just a 22-year-old middle school coach.
Yeah.
Luckily, I knew the AD here at the time, which was Kip Staggs. He's a Martinsville guy, and so I'm a Martinsville guy. So I got lucky in terms of them putting me in this position. In terms of how do you build a program, I probably focused an obscene amount of time on the age group program at that time. like making sure that we were doing things right from, we call 8 to 18, but really at that time we were really more focused on 8 to 14. And so, I mean, I was putting in roughly 14-hour days every single day the first 3 years I was here, just trying to build a program. And of course, the younger kids got better and better and better. And I knew that would kind of matriculate into our high school program over time. So I think if you'd probably look back at the results, we started seeing some in year 3 and year 4. It really started taking off. Of course, 2 years ago, our boys got second, our ladies got fourth. Last year, we got second and second. Our state runner-up to Carmel, which I have no shame in admitting that. It's one heck of a program. But I don't know. The answer is a lot of time, a lot of hard work, a lot of good people, a lot of parents who are willing to buy in, make commitments for their kids in terms of getting them here early, before school, after school, and then on my own personal end, a large investment of time and resources. So.
Yeah, okay. Do you think that first off, how long were you working in a middle school program before you got the head coaching position here?
For 4 years, I was at Martinsville. Basically, I was living in Bloomington. I was driving up to Martinsville once a day for practice, which is kind of a unique work balance life there between being a student, doing student teaching, and then, of course, running that program there. So 4 years, and that was enough to get that off the ground. We built a program there from maybe 20 kids to about 100 before I left. It's since gone down quite a bit, but nevertheless, that was kind of the track, and I guess the reason why they had any reason to buy in.
So with swimming, that's a lot closer to like cross country or track, which is more what I'm more familiar with as a coach. So how do you balance like athletes who do multiple sports and ones who swim all year? Because in swimming, it's a lot. If you are gone, you lose a lot more than you would in other sports.
I would probably agree. I don't know if due to the aquatic environment, I'm not sure if that many athletic abilities translate to and from. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, better athletes make better swimmers. I'm sure of that. But in terms of how do we balance that, our program basically runs 48 weeks out of the year, regardless whether we're in season or out season. Schedule's largely the same, and so depending on what people do, whether they're coming in during the spring or they're coming in during the fall, a lot of times the schedule's relatively similar to when they would be if we were swimming in season in terms of high school swimming. I'd say the largest thing that we notice is a lot of times if you're in a fall sport and then you come to us in November, at that time largely most of the team is in phenomenal shape by that point in time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times there's a bit of a curve, probably about a month and a half, where they normally don't perform very well. Generally speaking, they're a little beat down physically. And then so we need to bring them up a little bit slower. We call it on-ramping the athlete, but I don't know if we've ever mastered the perfect way to do that.
So what you're saying is that after the boys' state here in a couple weeks, I'll have 2 weeks to myself in the morning, the weight room?
Yeah, you'll have 2 weeks. And honestly,
you can do a lot in 2 weeks.
Chris is getting in there now, so it's me.
I've noticed that. He's kind of working around our schedule as well. We actually will probably, it's kind of a unique year because we've got an Olympic year, and Kate Oliver's got a shot. He should qualify for the Olympic trials, which is a pretty big deal. Okay. He's not
who's that?
Kate Oliver. He's a junior here. Oh. He's a backstroker. He's pretty special athlete, but nevertheless, he's got high aspirations, and in terms of making the Olympic team, that's a little ridiculous.
So he's going to qualify for the trials?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
How many qualify across the country?
About 700 total. So, okay. But that's that's including any collegiate age kids, and then additionally, the quote unquote professional swimmers are the people that do it post grad.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Wild. That's pretty cool.
Did not know that. So was he? So switching gears to the boys. How's the boys' season been so far?
This is certainly a different crew for me. I joke with them all the time. It's probably the most immature crew I've ever had in terms of just the way they act. doesn't really matter what it is whether it's a throwing kickboard or thinking it's funny to clog the drains and flood the locker rooms. Just typical little boy things that somehow have matriculated into high school. But
sounds funny.
Yeah, it does.
oh, it sounds hilarious.
It's that one of those things where like you're going to say no because people will hear this, but where you see it done and you're like ticked, but in your head you're like, no, that's kind of
I thought it was pretty funny. I was wearing dress shoes, so I opened the door, and then water came spilling out of the room, and I was like, and of course they just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. But that's a small anecdote that's kind of indicative of our entire season.
Yeah.
They're pretty talented kids, and they're really super likable. They just have a tendency to lose their focus at times, and so I've had to keep my thumb on them a little bit more than the boys teams in the past, but they're starting to come around. We're really starting to hit our stride the last probably 2 to 3 weeks, which it normally doesn't take that long for a high school team because I've had so much time with them in the fall, but this year's been a bit different in that regard, but I'm pretty excited about where their season's headed.
I gotcha. So what would be like a typical week as a swimmer in your program?
It really
I
depends.
know it's going to vary between off season and season. So
Well, it kind of depends on whether you take weights class, but let's say that let's say you're in weights class, you have 3 mornings a week, and those mornings are Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. If you don't have weights, then it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday mornings, and then of course every day after school. Friday's practice is just a wee bit shorter, so they can have some semblance of a social life, and then Saturday morning. So I guess all in all, what is that, 10 practices if you're going full bore, and obviously like the commitment's pretty high around here. It's gotten a lot better over the years, and so that's normally probably pretty standard.
yeah. Is it easier now that you've gotten kind of a program going to be able to tell? Because I'm sure when that first started and you first started going, 10 practices a week and you got 4 mornings, was there probably some pushback, but now it's kind of like, oh, you don't want to do it? That's okay.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I would say it has gotten a little bit easier to sell the Kool-Aid, so to speak. The only difference is I thought it would get infinitely easier or exponentially easier as we went on, and the truth is, like, I still fight the same battles, and I thought that for whatever reason that at some point I could just point to, plaques or trophies or say and get that kind of buy-in, but that's not necessarily the case. What I found is you're always going to have that contingent. I would say probably 30 to 40% of people that you're probably going to have to push. But yeah, I would say like it's gotten maybe 20% easier, but not as drastic as I thought it would be.
Huh.
Is there still, because you talked a lot about, building the program from like the ground up, including like the, the middle school and then younger ages and stuff like that. Now that they've kind of seen like what can happen if you do buy in, is it a little bit easier that they might show up kind of knowing like kind of the expectations of being a part of this program?
Yeah,
kind of gotten a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this morning we had probably 13 middle schoolers come to morning practice this morning, and so like I don't know what that's like comparison to any other sport. In swimming, like if you're a top tier program, that's probably a pretty average number, but in the grand scheme of commitment amongst like other sports, I'd say that's pretty impressive. And so yeah, of course those kids look up to somebody like Jacob DeStramp last year, who won 3 state titles, and absolutely the vision is there. Like if you commit to our program and you're willing to work hard and be coachable, that kind of future is certainly possible, whether that's swimming at a Division I collegiate university, or whether that's becoming a state champion or anything in between. Like the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. So I would say yes for the younger classes, and we've got a pretty robust age group program at this point. I'd say probably about 100 kids anyways.
What's your control on that? Like as far as the younger program, the younger kids and everything, what's your, like, do you have total control of that, or is that kind of like, here's what I think we should do? How are you as far as, are you a micromanager? Are you a control freak?
In the words of Emperor Palpatine, I am the Senate.
Yes. Yes.
I am the Senate. No, all jokes aside,
I am. All jokes aside,
yeah,
It's
all
true.
me.
Yes.
I've got a good crew of people. We've got about 4 coaches that kind of help me out in terms of like what do we believe in and what's our vision and what do we need to accomplish. per season, I would say I've got a decent amount of control under that. But in terms of day-to-day operations, very rarely do I stay after anymore. Like I told you, my first 4 years, I was actually coaching a group of middle schoolers every single day for 4 years straight. And then I kind of gave that up. But I've got a good crew. I say after if I've got a coach that's sick or somebody out or they need coverage or something like that. And sometimes celebrity coaching is the best kind of coaching because the little kids tend to think because I coach high schoolers, I'm a professional, I'm the real deal.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that's a little fun, but all in all, like day to day, not as much. In terms of mission statement, vision, what we believe in, this is what we're going to do, this is what our expectations are, this is how much we should practice it per age. Like I've got a great deal of control of that kind of stuff, but day to day, not much.
Yeah, I can vividly remember, like, because I played football growing up and that kind of stuff. I can remember like the high school camp that the high school team put on like during the summertime, and like the high school coaches were there, and the drills were run by them and the high school players, and like oh my goodness, they're professional athletes. Just looking up at them. And
You probably got their autograph on some high school poster.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I got that when Franklin won the sectional championship. I remember when I was like in 8th grade, I went and got all their autographs. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
I don't blame you.
I'm surprised I don't still
If
have
we win
it.
a sectional championship, I'll be getting their autographs. I'll be doing it. I'm a grown man.
So what's kind of your vision, I guess, going forward? What are some of the goals you have? Because, I mean, you've gotten second. You got second last year, both teams. And, I mean, you're a competitor. So you've got to look at Carmel and say, let me tell you, they may have won. How many have they won in a row?
And girls, this will be their 34th year.
Guys.
34th year in a row. That's the longest active winning streak of any sport of either gender.
That's 10 years older than I am.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping track at home,
It's
crazy.
It's a long streak, and that's pretty difficult to beat. And then I think their boys have probably won like 8 out of the last 10 state titles. It's a pretty well-oiled machine. They've got incredible consistency. I think that's probably the number one thing you need is coaching consistency and vision. Any coach that tells you otherwise, and I'm not familiar with other sports and how they're going to run their programs, but I think that they would probably echo those sentiments. The second piece, same journey we've been on since the very beginning. Like we've got to be better than everyone else at relationships. It's when you're operating a school of this size, we can't afford to lose kids. Whereas maybe you could write somebody off at a school like Carmel or Southeastern or Fishers or something like that. We can't afford to do that. So we need to bat 1,000, and the only way you do that is through relationships. Our vision is to be the best program in the state, and unfortunately, and unfortunately, like a rising tide rises all ships or raises all ships. But Carmel is not only the best high school program in the state, but obviously, in order to beat them, you'd have to probably become the best high school in the nation. So consistency, relationships, and then the second piece is like continuing to build the age year program to where like when they come to freshman year, they know what's expected and they know how to take that next step. But we're a lot closer, now than we were 5 years ago, and 5 years ago we were closer than we were 10 years ago. So it's just process. Unfortunately, it moves a lot slower than I'd want, and I'm pretty impatient, so sometimes that's been intolerable, but you get on.
Yeah. So I noticed I was looking at the heat sheets for the state championship because I was doing some research for this
I'm
podcast.
so proud of you.
And I noticed I was looking at the records and state records and everything. Carmel has like every single state record except for I think like one. It was a couple years ago.
I'm trying to think who. The one would be the 100 breaststroke. But yeah,
Who was the girl's name?
Yeah, the 100 girls breaststroke is a girl that graduated last year. She's at IU. Her name's Emily Weiss from Yorktown. But
Yes, Yorktown. That's it.
But you're right. Of the 11 swimming events, they have 10 state records.
They've got like not freshmen who are like seated first and things. And it's crazy. But I think it's good there's kind of something to shoot for, and
Yeah, and I don't know how close knit the community and other sports are, but those guys at Carmel have been more than giving with information and supportive towards me. Like if I need anything, I always call them. I do view like Chris Plum as somewhat of a mentor, and there's a lot of his, even though he's never even visited our pool, there's fingerprints of his program here. I'm not in the business of reinventing the wheel. I'm trying to expedite the process and get us as close as we can, as quickly as we can. But I don't know. Like, I think that's probably a good thing to have them in our state, not a bad thing. So I don't necessarily look at them as this enemy, and certainly I don't need them to get any worse. We just need to get better.
I like it. I like how that sounds.
I concur. Yeah. And it's definitely, like you said, it's definitely not a bad thing to have something to shoot for. Like, just having that goal there, like, I'm sure I'm guessing you don't mention them like during practice and stuff, but the kids know. The kids know that like that's out there, and they have to work harder if they want to get to that goal. So having that out there is definitely not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, well, you got any more questions?
I do not. No.
All right. Well, we're done here. You.
That was easy.
I know you cut through it. Hey, actually, let's talk about the Pacers. Real
Okay,
quick.
let's do it.
What do you think? Halfway through the season, a little over halfway through the season.
Well, obviously performed a lot better without Vic than we ever thought. I mean, those free agent signings, they've all panned out really, really well. Pretty excited about Malcolm Brogdon. I've yet to watch he and Vic be cohesive with one another, so I'm kind of excited to see. It's a pretty long backcourt. But who would have thought that Doma was going to be this good at this time?
I feel like he makes Miles expendable this summer.
It's funny that you say that, because I was going to say that, and then Miles is such a great guy that I feel dirty saying that.
No, he's taken such a great route in our community, like in Indianapolis, and you can tell that he likes being here. But man,
I think he was a lot. He was on the trade block. I read something where he was on the trade block. A lot of people were asking about him just before the trade deadline. I think this summer. I mean, one of those two is going to have to sit at the end of the game, and
For sure.
And it's just like, how do you justify to either one of them? Hey, either Domas or Miles. Hey, you're going to be sitting at the end.
I think, like, the other day I was reading, the analytics suggest you can't have two non-shooters on the floor at any given point in time in today's NBA, and you're exactly right. I know that we've trying to force the situation in terms of playing them both at the same time, but I'm not sure that a situation exists where we can afford to do that.
Right.
Now, I mean, again, the signings that they made over the course of last year have been unbelievable. I mean, looking back on it.
Yeah. They got paid to take TJ Warren.
Yeah.
Basically.
it's amazing.
I'm not sure where the Suns were coming from without that trade, but nevertheless, I mean, obviously they're what is it? One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Did you see the Pacers were trying to trade TJ Leaf?
No, but I wouldn't be offended.
I saw that. Yeah.
Somehow that guy, somehow he's got Indiana ties. I'm trying to remember.
His dad played high school up in the region, I think.
Okay.
I think
because at one time IU was involved in the recruitment of that kid, and then
Yeah.
of course he ended up going to UCLA. But
Yeah.
and that was the beginning of my relationship with him.
Yeah.
And then moving
'Cause I
forward,
remember
like I've
that,
had really quite a lack of relationship with him recently.
Yeah. So you're from IU.
Yeah.
So IU basketball. We'll just touch on that real quick. What do you think about that?
I'm worse. I'm worse than mad. I'm worse than hateful. I'm worse than all that. I've now graduated to apathy.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah, it's really pretty disgusting, and I'm not proud of it. But my friends, we've still, of course, got a group chat about it. But I don't know if I've responded in this thing in the last, maybe 10 ball games.
Yeah, they play tonight.
Yeah.
I'm trying to call up what time they play tonight. I don't know if they play. If they play at 7:00 tonight, I'll probably. But if it's like 9 or 9:30, like one of those games, I can't make that.
Hear me out. I think I'd rather watch HGTV.
Oh man. You can get some good products on HGTV, but you can't really get a good product from IU basketball right now.
Amen to that, brother.
Yeah.
And
do you trust Archie? Do you have faith in Archie?
I did.
I'm still on the Archie train. I'm still on the
But
Archie
they
train.
brought back Bobby Knight, and that's all they talked about the whole time.
It's too bad. It's a sad state of affairs when you get run out of your building by Purdue, and I don't know if anyone's all that ticked off about it.
Did you hear the podcast with Pat Knight? Where
No.
he was talking about him coming back. And did you know Bob Knight addressed the team before the game?
No.
And Pat Knight was like, he was great. Like, he sounded like the old coach. He said they got the PG version. He said, we got the X version, but they got the PG version.
I'll run.
I was like, and they still
I'll run your
came out
butt so you
like
can't
that.
eat supper. Like
Yeah,
that line.
if you don't want to recover, Greg Graham.
Yeah. You don't want to recover, Greg Graham.
That's about all you can say.
Well, I can't say any more of those
I
lines.
know, that's what
All
I'm
those
saying. Yeah,
expletives,
that's it. So, all right, well.
I actually have a follow-up question.
I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
it's okay. I mean, you can't name drop Emperor Palpatine in a podcast and not expect a Star Wars question.
Okay,
It's
what
just-
is it?
It's just kind of how it goes.
What's my question?
All right. I guess, what were your thoughts on Star Wars Episode 9 or the entire new sequel trilogy? Your perspective. What do you think?
I'll keep it as short as I can. I don't think it deserved near the hate that everyone seemed to indicate.
Okay.
I was entertained. There were. I'm not sure whether their mission or their vision for the series at the very beginning matched what it ended up becoming.
I concur with that.
And
yeah.
I think that anytime you're switching directors, you're probably at risk for that to happen. The ninth one I thought was good. I thought it was a little bit of fan service, and I thought that it jumped very quickly from scene to scene.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I kind of got whiplash. That first hour is just like, okay, we're going here, we're going here.
Yeah. And of course, like I think anyone could follow it. It just felt a little rushed, kind of like Game of Thrones season 8.
I also agree with that. Yep.
But anyways, I guess if I could surmise, like my biggest problem with it would be, for something so big as Emperor Palpatine to come back, I felt like that part of the story was incredibly underdeveloped. And I thought that maybe my opinion would be fixed after I saw it the second time. But I still feel like you can't make that big of an announcement and just put it in the stupid credits.
I concur.
Or the rolling
crawl,
storyline.
yeah.
The crawl. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that the biggest problem is definitely, I feel like they didn't plan it from the beginning. I think they went movie to movie and didn't have like a mapped out roadmap, because they could do it with the Marvel stuff. Like they had an idea of where they wanted to go, but I
Yep.
feel like they course changed 3 times. And
Interestingly enough, I don't think I share popular belief on this one. I thought The Mandalorian was good. I enjoyed it. I was entertained every single hour. However, like the lack of a storyline like that progressed was a little lackluster.
Okay.
And we got a little bit of character development with the main character, but I'm not sure we got much else outside of that. And I don't know if their job in the first season is to pose a lot of questions that will be answered later. But I don't know if I was as big of a fan as everybody else was. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll watch it again, but I'm not writing home to mom about it.
I feel like it definitely was a lot more serialized than stuff we're used to now, especially with like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, where
Correct.
it's one story the whole time. I feel like since it was weekly,
Yep.
that problem was a little bit more amplified, because you couldn't just click next on the episode and it's right there.
That's fair.
And you just get the characters back again, or when you see the next story for The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was released kind of all at once, maybe those problems would have been lessened. But I love the fact that we had to wait around for it. I like that. I like that more, because then you get time to like talk about it and time to catch up. Whereas if they drop it all in one day, you're like, oh God, I got to watch 9 hours of TV tonight, or I can't look at Twitter.
I think that Netflix model is probably going to go away. I know this is a rush for content, but Netflix made a lot of money doing what they do. But like as it projects over time, I'm not so sure that there is limited money that you can spend on the content. I know they've got like $300 billion or whatever, but I don't know if shows will continue to drop like that. As I think that this Mandalorian model is probably a little bit more sustainable.
Well, if you couldn't tell, I did not watch this.
Unbelievable.
You're not a nerd boy?
I am not a Star Wars fan.
I like to say that
sad.
this section of my brain is meathead and this side is nerd boy, and so together,
That's
like
my classroom. I've got football stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's Star Wars and Marvel stuff, and I think the kids' heads explode because they're like, you played sports and you like Star Wars?
you can't be both.
Exactly. It's like, yes, you can, children.
I did not. I'm not a Star Wars
It's
person.
okay.
So.
We still kind of like you.
Thanks. You're kind of like.
Kind of like is a bit exaggerated now.
I appreciate that. I can
All right,
respect
well.
that. All right. Well, Zach, good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
To your team. Not
Thank
to
you very
I mean,
much.
you're not really.
No, you're not doing
I don't do anything.
That's what when
lot of
I used to
whistling.
coach and people be like, "Hey, good luck." I'm like, oh,
I just
I'm not
kinda
doing
stand there.
anything. I don't- like, everything's done now. And then next Thursday is at the boys sectionals.
Yep, beginning of the boys.
And then
Thursday and Saturday will be Saturdays when kings are crowned.
So, all
Beautiful.
right. So yeah, we will see you all sometime, probably next week or something like that. Whenever Chaz and I rile up a next guest, we know one we're going to have to go after now, Mr. Cade Oliver.
Go after him.
So if you're listening, we're coming after you. Not in this pool.
Prepare for it.
You're way faster than us. All right. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you later.
All right, see ya.